he's got the wrong fins.
Rob said he wanted to give it a looser, less drivey feel and to be more versatile and to give you the option to use them in any twin fin. So with the release of the Two Fish by Firewire, Machado has released a new Two Fish keel. Now before you go out and buy the Two Fish keel and blow your cash, I thought I would actually get a set for you and try them out. He claims that it can work in any board. So we're going to put that to the test, and I'll also step you through some of the differences between the new Two Fish keel versus the first version of the Machado keel, and we'll decide which one's better, if you should stick with the old one, if you should get the new one, or just steer clear of them altogether. We might have a look at alternative fins as well. Let's start by having a look at the difference between these two fins. So these original Futures Machado keels have been around for years. You would have seen all sorts of reviews on them, and I actually got a set and I've used them on a ton of boards, so I've had a good chance to try these out. And I wasn't really going to buy any more Machado keels. So these ones were doing the job. I actually brought these back from my other place so that I could test them for you head to head against the new set. The new ones are lighter, and Rob said he wanted to give it a looser, less drivey feel and to be more versatile and to give you the option to use them in any twin fin and be creative. One thing I already noticed is the packaging. The Futures packaging is excellent, and the new packaging, I can already see it's stained this red mark before I've even got to use them. So somewhere in the process of switching from Futures across to Firewire directly, they've changed the construction of the fin, they've changed the manufacturing, location of the fin. They even weigh different weights. So let's get into that. The version 1 is slightly larger than version 2, about 2.5% larger. It doesn't look it when you place them on top of each other. If we line them up, what you'll see is the new version 2 sits further back and it has a longer trailing edge. The other major difference is the old version 1 has a flat foil. Version 2 has some curve in the fin. It has foil, which is supposed to make it more playful and lively. The other thing is version 2 is lighter, but only by a couple of grams, like 3 grams. I put them on the scales out of interest, and this one is just slightly lighter. The cant of the fin, i.e. the angle they're on, which on a Futures fin set is built into the fin, looks to be about the same. Rob says this fin has more curve in the back of the fin, and you can see that it gets pretty close to the old fin and then goes back out. So it does have a more playful curve. Now I don't have a Two Fish to try these in, and since Rob said it's okay to use those version 2s in any twin fin, I thought let's get 3 twin fins and compare version 1 to version 2 in each of the boards. The first board up is a Scotty James custom designed hip fish, and it is a little bit different to some other fish. It's 6'1", but it's fairly wide at 21 3/4. However, the rails are pretty thin, and it's got a little channel built into the tail here, which is going to make it behave differently. And the fin slots are a little bit further forward than you might generally find in a fish. They're probably about 1 inch further forward. And I had my suspicion that the fins are going to behave interestingly in this board. I have ridden this board with other fins, so I had something to compare it to. So I took it out with version 1 to see how it went. Counterintuitively, I found that it had too much fin. So when I was taking off, it was definitely gripping, but it was gripping so hard, it was not very forgiving. And I was finding it hard to get my balance on my takeoffs and to find that sweet spot. It was actually interesting because I would usually expect to be able to have fairly large keel type fins on the back of a fish. But when I bought this board, Scotty said this board prefers upright fins. And compared to the fins I tried it on before that were more upright and not as keel-like, it was slower and more clumsy to ride than I experienced it before. So I would not choose these fins for the board. So how did version 2 go? So I rode it with version 2 and it didn't really feel a lot different. I was still feeling that it had too much grip with these thin knifey rails with the channels and these fins, it was just feeling like it was too much fin, and again, I wouldn't choose these fins. So this board didn't really give me any difference between the fins that I could tangibly notice, and so therefore I moved on to the next board because it was probably going to be a better evaluation and more typical of the type of board that people are riding. Board number 2, next up, is an Album Sunstone. This is a 6 foot long fish. No channels here. It has much thicker rails and plenty of meat in this board. It's a heavier, more traditional board than the performance hip fish that I was riding before. And I have ridden this board with a bunch of different fins. I've done the Album more upright ones through to the really raked traditional Hobie style fins. And the reality is this board works with just about anything. So I put version 1 in to see how it went, and it was fine. It is a great fin for this board and no complaints, which is why I had kept these fins for all these years, because they're just a reasonable fin. But then I put version 2 in. So version 2, I feel I can notice a small difference. They are a little bit livelier. They do have that foil that's a lighter fin, but it also is set a little further back, and it suits this board. This board likes fin. It's heavier, it has thicker rails. I'm a heavy surfer. It felt good. Even in chest high conditions, there was absolutely no issue, zero sliding out, but also it didn't feel like it was overly grippy, that it was just trying to chuck me. This is a very forgiving, easy to surf board, and these fins felt great. So as it stands, this board likes a more set back keel, and so therefore, even though this fin is just a slightly smaller surface area, that foil in the fin and the more set back design and the more curve in the back of the fin, I feel like I could notice it. Because I've ridden this board quite a few times, I was fairly sensitive to this fin. But then I thought, I wonder, is it true? Can you really ride these in any twin fin? And I wanted to really test this out. So the next board was quite a trip. So what could be more of a difference from a Sunstone at 6 foot? I thought, why don't we take out the Moonstone, and this bad boy is 8 foot 2 long with channels, and it's a diamond tail. So it's very different. It's way longer. It's got channels. It has a different type of tail, and come and have a look at this. When you measure the fins to the back of the board, it is a foot from the back of the board. These fins are set fairway forward, which means, if you recall one of my other videos about choosing the right twin fins, you usually want more upright fins, especially if you have a long rail line. But these half keel shapes, I've found work the best in this board, and I've ridden this board with a few other sets. So I put them in this board and I took it out to a good chest to head high session at the points. As soon as I paddled in and stood up, it felt fantastic. It really came alive. These are great fins for this board. They're not too keel-like and too stiff, which could be a problem for a board this long, but they're not so upright and performance-y that it slides or becomes difficult to control. And this is the fastest board I've ever ridden. I've clocked almost 42 kilometers an hour on my Rip Curl watch at this point, and the speed that I got on this day was still quite decent. I'm going to show you some alternative versions of fins that you could choose instead of the Machado fins, and let's just see what they might look like. I'm going to split them into two categories. The old version 1 is a slightly larger fin, and version 2 slightly smaller fin. They're both in the sort of half keel category. If you were going to get something instead of version 1, you might want to go for a fin that is a little more keel-like, because it's not really a performance-y half keel compared to version 2. A good option might be this brand new Futures Christensen keel. If we hold them side by side, you can see the Christensen is a little more raked and set back just a little more. This Christensen keel is going to go better on more of a traditional fish than this Machado one. And if you want to get something really light but with lots of grip, then go for something like this Maui Finco JS Carbon keel. You can see it's set back a little. It has more tip and it is way, way lighter and stiffer. This goes better on my Album Sunstone than version 1 or version 2 of the Machado. Now let's have a look at version 2. If this fin is designed to work in any twin fin, then it's only fair to compare it to the other hybrid or half keels that I've tried that go well as well. Now, a classic is this Futures BMT twin. It is just slightly, very so slightly more upright, but you can see that it's not as deep here and therefore way more maneuverable. This fin goes way better on my SJS hip fish than the Rob Machado fin did. This is a very versatile fin, but gives you way more grip than a traditional upright. If you want something very similar to the Rob keel, this is a Captain Fins Mikey February, and you can see it has a similar outline. This fin is my favorite fin on the 8'2" Moonstone. So that's why I think it went quite well. They're pretty similar. This is a bit heavier, but I'm a heavy rider and I usually ride this board in big waves, good waves. Final one, and probably one of the closest fins you'll get. This is a Chris Christensen Captain Fin Honeycomb. They come in 3 versions. There's a signature edition, there's a fiberglass edition, there's the honeycomb, or they used to, but it looks like they've gone to Futures now. But in any case, let's just lay them up beside each other and I think you'll get a picture. They're doing similar things, okay? So the Rob keel goes set a little further back and the Chris Christensen is set a little more further forward. It's a front set fin. Now, what that means is this one is a little more maneuverable and it's also light and versatile. So it does have a flat foil, but this is a very good all-rounder, and this one is somewhere in between that and very close to that Mikey February. So what's the summary of all this? Let's just break it down. So I had version 1 and it was okay, and I sent it over to my other board collection to surf, and it's been doing a good job, but it's a pretty ordinary fin really. It's got a fairly straight back, and then along comes version 2, which is a little bit lighter, slightly smaller, and has that foil. I do think version 2 is a better fin. Now, not always is that the case when the new version of something is better. I do think it's a little bit better. I would use this one over this one. I'm probably going to sell this one now. I just don't need it because it didn't do anything amazing in any board that I've put it in. It's just a get by fin. This one is a little bit livelier and more responsive in a traditional list style fish, and it does also work in a longer board, and I suspect it would work in many boards, as do a lot of the hybrid keels. So I'm going to keep this one in the quiver, and I'm probably going to move this one on. I feel like it's had a good run for a few years, but there are better fins to buy than version 1. If you do have version 1, is it worth getting version 2? I would probably skip past this and get something else. I'm going to share with you the best fin that I've ever tried in the next video. These are a couple of my favorite fins, but I'm wondering, what is your favorite twin fin? Speaking of Machado fins, I did actually review a set of quads. I bought the new set of quads and reviewed them versus the old set. And you can see that in this video here.